G'day legends, and welcome to the Pot Noodle by Celtic Down Under. I'm your host Jared, and joining me tonight are Liam and John. How are you, Liam?
Cold. It's very, very cold here right now. But otherwise good.
How are you doing, Johnny?
Yeah, good. We've actually got the opposite problem here. We've got big thunderstorms coming, and we had one last week. So that really dramatic way where the whole sky is lighting up and streets are flooding and stuff, and it's getting into the stormy season. It's kind of cool. I like it.
You're missing that thing from last time when it happened, Johnny, where you had you changed the angle you were sitting on in your room, and you could see it out the back window.
Yeah, totally missing it now. You might still see it coming through and lighting up the room, but yeah, there's no straight on view of it anymore. That's a shame.
Fair enough. Yeah. All right. So we'll start off with the usual shout. So we've got the website's relaunched, CelticDownUnder.com. So on there you can find links to all of our social media, so Instagram, Twitter, or X, whatever they want to call it now. YouTube channel, podcasts, our merch store for the t-shirts and all that are available on there. So jump on, check it out. Like all of our social medias, follow us on there. And we'll crack on to the our review of Celtic 6, Aberdeen 0. So we named the pod from 0 to 6 to 6-0 because we're going to talk about the level between where we're at in terms of the league versus Europe. We'll discuss that later in the pod. So what I want to do first of all is I just want to start talking about the actual game that's happened less than 24 hours ago, I think it would have been. And it was quite a interesting game. A lot happened early, a lot happened late. Kyogo had a bit of a nap halfway through the game, and yeah, we'll have a bit of a chit chat on that. So, starting lineup was the usual questions we have each week. Who's going to be the third person in the midfield? And with Maida getting injured when getting sent off in Europe during the week, it's who's going to be the other winger playing. So, Liam, what was your overall thoughts when you saw the starting lineup? It was Johnson, Carter Vickers and Scales and Taylor at the back. O'Reilly, McGregor and Home got the start in the midfield, and Kyogo, Palmer and Yang started up front. What was your thoughts when you saw that?
The only critique I would give is I would probably have gone for Iwata over Holm, but other than that, it's pretty much the team I would have picked. So yeah, I was confident we'd get a result. I didn't think it'd be quite as emphatic as it was, but yeah, going into the game, I saw that team and I thought, yeah, this will be enough to get the job done.
Johnny, what was your thoughts?
Well, look, I'll be very honest. I actually thought that was the team I would have picked. I was quite happy that Home got a start this time. We talk about how well he played a little bit further on, but the only thing is, I'll say that when Iwata came on, I kind of thought, yeah, okay, I've kind of forgotten actually how good he is. But I thought, that was the team I would have picked. I thought Yang and Palmer were probably the two big variables there, and they started, and then Home obviously being the third midfielder. So yeah, I was very happy with that starting lineup.
Yeah, for me, I thought I was a bit iffy on whether it was going to be Yang or Forrest, because I thought, okay, it's Aberdeen off the back of a big loss in Europe. Is Rogers going to go with the trial and true? We know what we're going to get with Forrest. Put him out there, have a seasoned veteran out there helping out, or was it going to be Yang? And I was glad he went with Yang. Like, quality performance from him, which we'll get into a bit later on as well when we go through each of the players. But yeah, overall, I was pretty happy with it. Home was my preferred option in the midfield there, because I didn't think Rogers was going to push McGregor forward into an 8 role. Having seen Iwata, yeah, as Johnny said, we'll talk about that later on too. But yeah, Iwata for me is like, okay, Liam, now I've seen it. I've seen what you've been talking about. I got you 100%. What a player we've got there. So, yeah, the real question though is I want to dive into was, which of the goals was your favourite? There was some absolute quality finish in there. Like, I thought it was pretty funny to go just looking at it, like the first goal, the cross made that goal. It was good finish, but it was the cross from, I think it was Palmer, unbelievable cross, and the finish was just great. The second goal, Kyogo's one, it was your typical Ange ball thing. Kyogo making that run to the front post, quick little cut back from, I think it was O'Reilly, bang, ball goes in, one touch, football. Lovely. And then there was bugger all till later on in the game. The penalty from, as soon as Willie Collum got called over to the screen, you knew that was going to be a penalty. It's pretty much stock standard there. But I don't know, Palmer, man, that run up, the way he did it for the, go back about 20 kilometers back from the penalty spot, do a bit of a circle, stop. I'm just like, dude, what are you doing?
Dragged it out, yeah.
And it's in. Thank you very much. We have a penalty taker that can actually put them in the net. So nice. And then you had Turnbull just with his howitzer from outside the box, making something out of nothing. And then the last two for O for me were just like, seemed like we're just having fun. By that point, some of the passes chipping over, like, which we'll talk about and everything when we get to O'Reilly and Palmer and those sort of things. Like, again, the cross from Palmer for O's first goal, and then the ball through from O'Reilly for the last one. I don't know which was my favourite. What was your favourite, Johnny?
Well, you summed it up really well. I think I think mine's got nice little bookends. I think my favourite goal was probably the first one, and I think it was just a really good example of how well the team was playing together. Some of the passing was brilliant in this game. So, and a lot of the joy was coming down from Palmer and Yang. So that connection that we had, the Palmer cross to Yang, was great. It was a really good goal. It was headed fantastically. Palmer was becoming a very, very special player, but it was good to see that Yang had lots of energy and wasn't, anxious from the occasion, because I think it's been a while since he's actually started or even played. So it was good to see that he was, ready to take any stride and stuff. And sort of that, I know the commentators were talking about how he got youth player of the year in the Korean League before he came to Celtic and stuff. And you can kind of see that, right? So I think the more he plays, the more that sort of comes out. So I thought that was a really, really good goal, those two linking up. But then I also liked O's last goal. I thought it was a really, really good solo goal. I thought, he took his chance. I mean, at that point, Aberdeen had given up, right? So that was, the pass through that, that O got on the end of. It shouldn't have happened, but it did. He took it really well, took the opportunity really well, and it was, phenomenal. It was a good goal, good solo goal. So I would say those two are my two favorite goals, but leaning on the first one, I think.
What are your thoughts, Liam?
I'm kind of along similar lines. Really pleased for Yang to get his first Celtic goal, because he's been playing well when he has played, and he's deserved to have a goal by now. And that cross from Palma was just that was just pure class. That was absolutely beautiful. And Big O, his second goal in particular, just the kind of serenity of it, just the way he just kind of casually strolled through and just stuck it away, and he wouldn't have done that a couple of weeks ago. He's had, well, in my mind, he's scored in 3 games, 3 consecutive league games now, because that goal last week should never have been chopped off. So he's a guy who's playing like a striker who's finally found the net and is getting much more comfortable with putting the ball in the net, and it shows. We all believed there was a player there, and in the last couple of games he's really started to show it, which is especially important if, as we got on to, Kyogo might be out for a wee while.
Yep, totally agree.
I'm looking at it as well, Liam, not just on that, but we've all been talking about how poor the last transfer window was, and in Andrew's windows last year as well, after Giakoumakis left, with O coming in, and how poor that was a downgrade. But like I've been saying this season, that I see O's role this season as being like the Edouard role in the first year when he was at the club, where it was to develop, chime in, and we've just been waiting for that eruption of a performance where he just comes in off the bench, makes it happen, and runs around like big man on campus sort of thing. And I think that was almost the Edouard at Ibrox performance for O. That's him getting to that thing where he's like, okay, I know what I'm doing. This is me. I'm out here. Let's get it done. and he looking like that goal a few weeks ago has settled him down, calmed any nerves. He's stopped. He's not, rushing and just like snatching at shots. He knows, okay, I can do this. I've adjusted to the level. Let's go. So that's good to see. And then also on top of that, when I'm talking about the different transfer windows is because Yang, the way he's played, you can see he's finally settled in too. And his goal was very Abada-esque for me. Like the ball goes out to the left and he just goes into that back post. And where Abada tends to come in, gets the ball and finishes with the foot, Yang gets himself in position for that goal perfectly. So that was very Abada-esque in the way we wanted to play in that role. So it was great to see.
Yeah,
And
reminiscent of Abada's goal against the Huns a couple of years ago, where he Hatate scored the 2, and then Abada came in with the 3rd. If you remember, it was similar position. Sorry, anyway, keep going, Jared. Sorry, I interrupted you there.
And then, so you've got that. So I'm just looking at it thinking, okay, we're starting to see these players come through. And then Iwata's performance as well is another one of those guys that have taken a little while longer to get into the club, break into the first team, get used to what the requirements are, what's expected of them, to see them starting to break through. So suddenly, 2 weeks ago, we're looking at the bench going, oh shit, who are we going to put on here? There's no one on the bench. And now after the last couple of weeks performances like Ross County away, where we rotated a lot of guys, and then this game in particular against Aberdeen, I'm looking at that going, okay, so Holmes an option, Bernardo's an option, Yang's an option, Iwata can come on and do things. Bernabei, when he came on, even he seemed okay. Like he didn't seem like he was like off with it. We haven't seen him in months. So suddenly we've got some squad depth and guys are starting to develop and come through. So I don't know if that's just me with some green tinted specs on and, having watched the game twice in the last 24 hours because stupid o'clock for us here and then just watching it again just before we started recording. But so being all sorts of happy because, you've seen us score so many goals. But yeah, it's just great to see.
I still think we've got a bit of a gulf between what we would consider our strongest 11 and then the next. Like if no injuries, everything, clean sheet, all that sort of stuff, there's still for me, my confidence would be that there's a step down, and you kind of listed some of those players.
You, John.
Yeah. It's not to say that they're not good or they won't be good. It's that I think they've lacked opportunities, and I think they probably lack confidence. And it probably just a bit of me just not watching them enough to be like, he's good. Iwata for me is that type of person, but and Bernardo is another one.
So what we'll do then is we'll start getting through all the players because we've spoken about the goals, and we'll start with Iwata, okay? Because Liam has been waxing lyrical about him, saying he's probably the best credentialed one of all the Japanese players we brought to the club because Kyogo came in, Maeda's come in with his reputation, Hatate's come in, but Iwata's come in as the J-League Player of the Year. So he's come in the most credentialed player that we've signed out of the J-League, and he hasn't got a chance to get out there and play. And now seeing him out there in this game and the last few times where he's been moved around a lot under Rodgers, where play some right back, play some centre back, play in a little bit in the midfield, but play as an 8, not as a 6. That's what's happened to him a lot so far while he's been settling in. The last couple of games where he's been put on, he's actually playing in the 6. For me, I'm seeing what you've been talking about, Liam. So do you want to tell us, I told you so? So over to you, Liam.
No, I mean, really, he's just very unlucky that our captain plays pretty much the same position he does. That's the unfortunate thing. You're going to see Iwata at his best when he's filling in for Callum McGregor because they are very similar players. But yeah, I will say I told you so because I have been saying it for long enough. But to me, it's never really been in doubt because although he hasn't played that much, when he has played, it's been pretty unanimous that he's looked good. The only time there's been questions about him was when he was played out of position in defence, and he's not a central defender, and he probably never will be. When he's played in midfield, where he should be. He's a very, very good player, and that for me has never really been in question.
You know what I'm saying, Liam, and I'm going to say this, and I want to go John off the back of it. What I'm seeing from him the last couple of games when he's playing in the number 6, we've got our Wanyama type that we haven't had since he left.
Yes.
He's a big number 6 who can beat a guy with skill, can actually has the athleticism to be able to get the ball with his feet and run away from players because he's done that, but can also clatter someone and hold someone off physically and out jockey them and out physical them and then play it forward. And that's what I'm seeing the last few games as him in the midfield. I'm like, we thought Abelgard would be that. We thought Biton would be that. We've thought Abui Kawasi would be that. There was a bunch of others that have been that guy coming in, and now I've seen it. It's the first player I have seen in that role have the perfect combination of speed, strength, and skill with the ball at his feet that we've had in the number 6 spot as an actual number 6 like that since we had Wanyama at the club. What are your thoughts, John?
I mean, I definitely get your comparison, Jared. I get what you're saying. The fact that you're comparing it to Wanyama to me screams that he's not going to be that type. Like, he's not going to be as good as Wanyama, but
Wanyama type.
Yeah, Wanyama type. Yeah, exactly. That sort of vibe. I definitely see that. I definitely, and I'll hold my hands up and say that I didn't quite see the hype until I saw him playing in the 6. And there's plenty of games where we could see Iwata and McGregor playing next to each other, and Europe's probably one of them. We'll talk about that in a minute, but he had an interview at some point in the recent past that pretty much said that's the type of player he wants to be. That's the type of player that he is, and what he's good at and stuff. And he kind of wished the manager saw that and stuff and gave him the opportunity, and the opportunities will come. But he is that sort of, I wouldn't call him a midfield general, but he's quick and he's good at tackling and he's good at covering and stuff, and he's really not going to let an awful lot get past him. I see it as long as we play him in the right position. And if it means resting McGregor, because there's some games you don't need to play him for 9 minutes, right? So especially when the games are done. I can't remember what time he came on, but I don't think it was like 50 minutes. But you could have played him at 50 minutes and given McGregor a rest. But I see what you're saying, Jared, and I kind of agree.
Yeah, so what I'll do is I'll bring up some comments and then we'll go through the rest of the players here. But Andrew Galea we had some very good performances. Yang, O'Reilly, and Palma.
We haven't really spoken about O'Reilly yet, but
yeah, we've still got them to dig into.
Yeah,
so we've got another 20 minutes of wax and lyrical about the players. Getting in there, all sorts of man love and stuff on the pod. There you go. RS77. If we win our next 6-0, then it's time to announce the Antichrist. Now this one here, we're talking about Kelmac resting him. So Martin is saying, great game, guys, but what did Kelmac do? Another bad performance by his standards. Now, why I brought that one up is followed it up with this comment. Kelmac performance isn't great. Does that mean he should be rested for Iwata or Turnbull? We're just saying we should probably rest Kelmac a bit more. Like, at his age, the amount of minutes in his legs that he's played over the years and all that sort of stuff. Like, he plays pretty much full games for Scotland, full games for us. He's just he's not going to be able to play 70 games a season like he was doing in Rodgers' first run at the club. So we've got to be clever and we've got to help him out. And there was a comment here that Andrew Galea said was that Rodgers didn't help Iwata. Ange brought him in to play alongside McGregor in Europe. That's the sort of thing we need to do. If we want to play Kelmac in Europe, put him along, play a double pivot, put Iwata alongside him, help him out. And then in games like when we go play Ross County, do we need to play Kelmac in that game? No. We go and play St. Johnson. Do we need to play him in that game? No. So there's times where you can be selective and go look at certain teams and you don't have to start him every game. You can rotate guys. It was in my opinion on that, it's kind of like with when we had Rodgers' first run. You had Bruni's legs were going. You had Kelmack as a younger guy alongside him to do his running for him. And 3 out of every 4 games, Bruni would play, but the 4th game, he'd get rested. And you'd have Bitton in the midfield alongside Kelmack or something like that, right? So he could easily do the same thing with Kelmack here, just to help keep him fresh and get his longevity going and everything like that, and help him be around longer at the club by playing him alongside with Iwata. And then in other games, you can be like, all right, Kelmack, have the game off. Now, Mahesh is absolutely all over saying Kwon has to be given a go at 6. Based on his data, he should outperform Kelmack and Iwata. I don't think so, mate.
Yeah, I don't see that personally. Like, I understand when you look at data, it tells a story and stuff, but I don't see that. I don't see that. Performances.
What I would say to that though is what data pertaining to Celtic do we have for that? With Kwon, it's near 0. There's not enough data. There's not enough of a data set there to actually make a judgment in terms of him fitting into the Celtic team. Now, fair play, Mahesh may, as I'm sure he does. He's very good with his stats. He's probably got plenty of stuff from the K-League to back that up. But we are talking about a player that needs to come into Scottish Premier League level and European Champions League level. And there is no evidence yet that Kwon is or isn't cut out for that because he simply hasn't played.
And we've got this here to follow up to Mahesh was Kwon looks faster and taller. He has one of the best heat maps I've seen for a 6 in Euro football. And then Andrew summed it up here. The data's coming out of the 2nd division of Korea. So it's not even coming out of the top flight league. So if people are on Tilio's ass already at the moment because he's injured and hasn't played, and what he's done in in the Asian Champions League and has played for the Socceroos, so he's a full international, he's been to a World Cup as a development player, but people think that he's an enigma and he's not going to cut it, then in my opinion, it's going to be the same for Kwon.
Not to say that he couldn't. Not to say he couldn't
I'd love to be proven wrong. Honestly, I'd love to be proven wrong.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah, he's not a bad player. He's an unproven player as it stands. And in a Celtic context, the same goes for Tilio. Until they play, you can't say if they're good or bad.
And I just to bring up the Kelmack stuff, I think the severity of the language is very harsh. I don't necessarily think that we're at a point where we saw Bruni's sort of twilight sort of seasons and stuff where we were having to. You could quite clearly see that he was just filling the jersey sort of stuff, and he was just trying to get through games, and after 60 minutes especially.
It was more there for the emotional leader than actually for being.
That's it. He was there as a leader, and actually, when we took him off and we lost the leadership, we were completely rotten. So he still, massively contributed in the leadership role. I mean, players have peaks and troughs, right? It's not. I personally didn't see Kelmack playing that bad, but others seem to jumping on his, whatever. But I think Kelmack plays 60, 70 games a season. Now and again, he's going to have a poor couple of games compared to his own standard. Still one of the best players in the Scottish League. Still one of the best players that you can watch at Celtic. But by his own standards, he's might get a little bit poorer. But I don't think that means we drop him completely. I know we haven't suggested that. Some have, or replace him with others and stuff. But the definitely what you were saying before, Jared, about like the dead rubber games or the games that's like, do we really need to take him to Ross County away and play him for 90 minutes? Probably not. That's probably a game that you could put Iwata on or Kwon or whoever we want. But yeah, so let's just give Kelmack a break. Let's just.
100%.
For example, if we don't get a result against Lazio in midweek and that's us effectively out of Europe, then I don't see any need to play Kelmack or Kyogo or any other automatic first pick player for that final game against Feyenoord.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's a really good point. We're talking about how we don't have that many players with big European experience. Well, give them an opportunity. This is a perfect opportunity. Kelmack's got plenty, so yeah, it's a good point.
You know what that's reminded me of? Ferencváros away when Karamoko Dembele started.
Yeah. Yep.
There we go.
Yeah,
So
that's a good point.
Yep. So back to the game, we'll just quickly go through because there's a whole bunch of players who played unbelievable that we still haven't even spoken about. So I want to start off with Palma.
Mhm.
So what's the saying? Celtic shirts do not shrink to fit an inferior player. On top of that, you put the number 7 Celtic shirt on someone coming into the club, and to hit the ground running the way he has, and to establish himself with his ball playing ability, his striking ability, and just the way he is filled that jersey that Jota was absolutely dominating for us for the last couple of years. I think he's been in unbelievable form the last month in particular. And that, as we said, that first cross was amazing. Left-footed cross. Second cross outside of the right boot for O's goal. The thing I love most about him is when he takes corners, he's always putting them into a danger area. Rather than doing this little short corner thing or just tap it out and muck around with it, he's putting it to the back post. He's putting it to the front post. He's putting it just in front of the penalty spot so our guys can attack it. So he's actually making a difference with, the stuff he's doing there. Then we've seen him doing decent with his free kicks. And now, as Paul's saying here, Palma, our new penalty king. There you go. So I'm looking at this going, I've been really impressed by him the last month. And he's just been some signing for us. Liam, what's your thoughts?
Yeah. Honestly, the last time a Celtic number 7 has excited me this much is probably Paddy Roberts. That was the last time somebody came in and really embraced what a Celtic number 7 should be based on, Jinky and Henrik are two impossible visions to live up to. But, some players come in and are intimidated by it and some players embrace it. As I said, Roberts to me embraced it. He came in and was at the get-go, really was trying to really show what a player he was. And Palma's the same. He plays, to me, it's like, we talked before about the bedding in time that Yang and O have needed, and now we're starting to see the best of them. To me, Palma plays like a guy who's already been at Celtic for 2 years. It's like he already knows exactly what his role is. He knows exactly the measure of the people he's playing against, and he's utterly fearless. Shoots on sight, brilliant with a dead ball. Like you say, had the confidence to step up and stick that penalty away. He is the complete product, and it's very unusual these days, especially when you sign a player from outside Europe, for him to come in and just be as ready to go as he clearly has been.
I'll get you there, Liam, before the comments section goes nuts. Yeah, he's from outside of Europe because he's Honduran, but we signed him from a Greek club, so he did have a little bit of time there.
Yeah, so, I was meaning in terms of the culture and the language and whatever. I wasn't meaning particularly the football.
I know. Yeah. I knew what you meant. I'm just saying I know what the comment section will be like, so I'll just cover you up there. But I agree with what you're saying. But the thing for me is the way he's come in, like the thing I found with Jota, right, was when he'd be out injured or suspended, or when he first came in, he'd always take 4 or 5 games to get up to speed. And then he'd just go on an absolute tear for the next 10, 12 games, right? So that's what I found. And then you look at Palma coming in, it's taken him a couple of games to get up to speed, and now he's just off to the races. What he's reminded me of is in Rodgers' first stint, the way Scott Sinclair came in and just hit the ground running from that left wing position, where he's able to come inside, he's able to go outside, and he's just creative, and he's just hitting them, just unbelievable. The way he hits that ball into the box, whether it's a shot or a cross, I haven't seen anything like that at Celtic in a long, long time.
Yeah.
Johnny?
Yeah, I agree. I agree with all the hyperbole that we're using about him. I think he's probably one, if not the only underperformed player right now. I think he's probably our most informed player. He's incredibly exciting to watch. And again, he was somebody that I think we all kind of spoke about as a big question mark. Like, is he going to be? We've had lots of South Americans now, or in recent times, we've had a few South Americans. And this was certainly, there's certainly a player that we didn't really know much about. I know there was a lot of like at the time when the rumors of signing him, there was a lot of media articles talking about how great he was and stuff. But there's been plenty of them, and we've had signings that have been absolute duds, right? So we all kind of take it like, yeah, okay, let's see. And to be fair, the first couple of games for him weren't his best. But we're now actually seeing that he's playing with a lot of confidence, and it's mad how psychologically that really changes any sort of type of sport. But in football, it really changes your performance. It's just how you feel about yourself. And now he's actually getting that sort of European experience, and he's playing competently in the biggest stage in the world and stuff. And then also, doing it domestically. I actually think he's going to be one of our he's still young. We'll eventually celebrate. He'll be one of our biggest resales. I really do. South American, ticks all the right boxes. I would have said the same about Jota, to be honest. And he was one of our biggest resales, but it wasn't particularly a league that I thought he'd go to. But this is that type, that caliber, 25 million plus. I think he'll go for eventually. Be huge for us.
So I'm going to bring up Mahesh's comment here. So he's saying Palmer's threat on the left was a level above what was going on the right. And I wanted to address this one. Palmer's speed has improved in recent games. He's finding his legs. Come on, Mahesh. He's not finding his legs. It's now that he's not wearing black boots. He's got boots on, so he looks faster of foot now. That's what it is. If you believe all the comments that you saw from the Celtic Dars and stuff on Twitter, when he first came in, oh, he looks really slow. He must be those black boots and comments like that. There it is. That's why he looks faster. It's not that he's finding his legs. And that's firmly tongue in cheek, by the way.
Super quick flames on his boots. That's what it is. There.
Yeah,
the go fast flames.
Boots go fast, Johnny. Andrew's saying Taylor helps Palmer on the left. Johnson nowhere is effective on the right behind the winger. I think Johnson seemed to work well behind Yang on the weekend. So yesterday. So it's about combinations. And we've had that much churn and burn between our forwards. It's been tough. So yeah, it's a bit of a good one there. But I think there's a few other players we need to touch on quickly. Matt O'Reilly.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
What a player.
I'll just let you run with it here.
Oh, we talked about all the goals. And I think what summed up for me O'Reilly's performance was the goal that never was. That would have been easily the goal of the season if Forrest buried that. And that was that little chip over the back line. Forrest just scuffed and hit the ceiling, which even he giggled with. I can't remember what he said, but it was like, for fuck's sake, or something like that. But
Ryan Christie shot into the deck.
Yeah, it was beyond Ryan Christie. That was off to the moon. But
it's on the roof.
But yeah, again, my snobbery sometimes when it comes to who we sign. But the way that I thought about somebody coming from MK Dons or a league like that, I thought, oh, that's never going to be Champions League standard. All you need is the right type of environment. You just need the right type of coaches, and you just need to have the talent that Celtic can foster, and you automatically get a fantastic player like that. Now they're hard to find; they're definitely diamonds in the rough, but that is easily a player that I'd have thought, here we go again, just another, duff that we've bought. We've bought some sort of another 2 million or whatever it was we paid for a player that we just sort of shooting in the dark sort of thing, and the metrics say that he could be good, so we'll give him a go. But yeah, clearly raw talent. Clearly, if he goes and plays in the Premier League next season, it won't surprise me whatsoever, because he is that type of standard. He is an absolutely fantastic player, and it seems to be, which isn't surprising in the midfield, but whenever Hatate's off or injured, O'Reilly seems to be, stepping up, which is what you want out of your midfield. You want, somebody to be competent and the other one to be on in form, sort of thing. So phenomenal, really, really genuinely great player. I thought he completely controlled the midfield in that game, which gave us most of the joy, to be honest. But yeah, great to watch, and I hope he keeps up his form, to be honest, especially in Europe, especially Champions League games.
Well, I'm going to bring up this comment from Andrew. He went missing in Madrid, did O'Reilly? Not there yet. Everyone went missing in Madrid, Andrew. So I'm going to give him a pass on that, because there's not a single player in the team who came out of that game with their head held high.
No.
Last time that many people went missing in Madrid, Franco was in charge.
Oh. It wasn't me this week, Johnny.
Anyway, moving on.
Very, very, very dark.
Oh, Liam, and he's wearing a CCP shirt. Everyone as well. It's even funnier for that reason.
Oh dear. I was just going to say though, with O'Reilly, unfortunately, Republic of Ireland don't seem to be anywhere near getting to a World Cup. So I think we can all support a Denmark midfield that's got O'Reilly and Delaney in it, can't we?
Very green tinted Danish team, isn't it?
Aye.
So what I want to say about O'Reilly, John absolutely ticked every box on what I was going to say and thinking about him. But the thing I wanted to add is when he was coming in, as you were saying, Johnny, someone from NK Dons, and we're like, okay, are we settling? Oh, I think I may have said it on the pod, or one of us said it. We were settling for O'Reilly because we missed out on Riley McGree, who's an Australian international, had a little bit old, a couple of years older, but had a better run sheet of things he'd done and has been up for a Puskas Award and all this sort of stuff. Matt O'Reilly will be playing in the La Liga, or he could play in Germany, he could play in the Premier League, he could play in any of these leagues, and his game is adaptable. Or Riley McGree is still going to be stuck rotating between the bench and the starting lineup for Middlesbrough in the Championship. So I think we picked the right player there. So Riley McGree.
I mean, the circumstances there was McGree stuck his middle finger up and so didn't he? Said no chance, and he did us a favour. We got the better player.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think credit where it's due to Celtic scouting as well, because I'm no fan of English football in general, but outside of the Premier League in particular, there is so much mediocrity in like Championship, League One, and League Two. To go into those divisions and pick out a gem like that really does require so much research, so much background checking, and so much knowledge of what exactly your team needs. So I think that Celtic scouts do get a bit of stick sometimes, but I think they really, really, really did their homework on that one.
Agree.
I'll say what I've heard. A certain former Celtic player who coached O'Reilly at Fulham, Peter Grant, got in touch with a former Celtic player who's in the scouting department, Tosh McKinley, and worded him up on it. And here we are.
There you go. It's all about network, though, isn't it? That's every business.
Pretty much. So to finish off the talk on O'Reilly, O'Reilly's maturing as a footballer, not the finished article yet, but coming along nicely. But to finish it off, RL77's comment, my one criticism of O'Reilly is his new haircut. All I have to say is I think it suits him.
Yeah, I think that's good.
You get onto Twitter and you look at, all the comments on it. I would say all the chicks are absolutely raving about it. All the bald-headed men are saying it's a shocking haircut.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Hey, not all the bald-headed men.
Liam's got hair envy. There we go.
Yeah.
Well, at least it could be worse. It could be like Barbie Cantwell,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So, any other players you want to touch on quickly from the game, Johnny?
I think we pretty much covered it. I think those were the only player that we kind of touched on that I guess it isn't really. We're not going to sing his praise. I'm not going to sing his praises. I definitely think Alistair Johnson's taken a dip in form from what we've seen of him. I can't remember why was he injured for a while. I think he was injured for a while.
Yeah.
And since that injury,
yeah,
he had since coming back. I think he's still taking time to get back to that quality that he's got, energy really, because he's it's not as I'm sure I'm not the only one that sees he's like less energetic, bounding up and down the wing and stuff. But yeah, well, I mean, like pre-season was a while ago now, but I still think he's got to get back to that sort of level, and like that will come. Like it's not like he's lost that, but I hope he's not. But yeah, I definitely notice a drop in his performance, and yesterday wasn't one of those.
I think there's also something to be said for the fact that, as we already touched on, he's not had a set formation in front of him. The midfield is chopped and changed because of injuries. Maeda's had to go out because of injury. So it's not been as easy for Johnson to form a partnership in the last few games as Taylor clearly has with Palma. I don't think Johnson's played particularly badly. I just think that the dynamism we're seeing down our left flank now kind of makes the lack of it on the right flank stick out a bit more.
It's kind of funny you say that, Liam, because 12 months ago, it was the other way around. Second half of last season in particular, it was the right-hand side with Johnson and, was it Maeda in front of him? Oh, no, Jota was playing in front on the right. That's right. That was miles ahead of what was happening on the left with Taylor and Maeda. So, yeah, it's just interesting to see how it goes. But, yeah, we'll go there. Mahesh, I just want to address this comment. He got curiously O'Reilly hasn't gone south by now. Stories of Spurs interest fit like a glove given Spurs leading pressing stats. Do you not remember the comments and the subtle digs at the former manager that O'Reilly made and how much he's enjoying playing for Brendan? I don't think he'll end up at Spurs for that reason.
Yeah. I don't think any player would turn down such a big
he'd go if the offer was there, Johnny. But
yeah. But I mean, I get your point. I don't think there was clearly something that happened behind the scenes there. But somebody will come knocking. This sounds mad, but it wouldn't shock me that a Man United that are trying to rebuild and look for deals around about. I see Jared smiling. But that sort of like big team that needs to rebuild sort of thing that Tottenham used to be. But that's what came to mind. Arsenal and stuff like that have gone beyond them. So
yeah, I was going to say something just as nuts as that. That's why I'm smiling and laughing. It's got nothing to do with Man United. I was going to say, I think with the pressing stats and that they have a certain midfielder who is struggling a little bit, I could see him in a Liverpool jersey taking Thiago's spot, who has been injured and is struggling. That would be a perfect fit. Would Liverpool come shopping straight from us? Who knows?
Yeah.
But normally for that move, you need that bridge club, which has always been like Southampton, for instance. So, yeah, I just look at it and go, that's the sort of move I think that would fit him. So that's why I was laughing at what you were saying, Johnny, because I was thinking just as nuts a comment.
And like you make a really good point. You might find that a team like that, because of their stature, wouldn't shop directly at Celtic, but you might see them go to another smaller Premier League team, and that's like the step it takes. So you could see them end up at Manchester United or Liverpool.
That's the way Virgil got to Liverpool.
It probably would take. I mean, we used to take Brighton as an example, but Brighton are far too good now. You might get, the Evertons, for example, would be a really good example of that sort of big history, big club needing a rebuild sort of thing. That you might get that sort of stepping stone.
West Ham.
West Ham.
Maybe exactly. In Scotland. There you go.
Yeah. So there's plenty of teams in the English leagues that would pick up Matt O'Reilly on the cheap. Relatively.
What I would say though is don't rule Spurs out, because them historically being what they are, there's every chance Ange might not be there in 6 to 9 months. I love the big guy and I hope he does well, but Spurs is such a volatile club for managers.
It's a hard one for me. Hate Spurs, love Ange, so I don't care. I don't care what happens.
All right. So Kyogo's injury, the head knock and everything like that, it was great that they just took him off straight away when that happened. I hope he's recovered and he's not too concussed or whatever. He was called up for Japanese duty, so him and Maeda were, and imagine if neither of them go. That'd be actually good for us. Give them some rest.
Yeah.
Also, isn't it great that the Daily Record's headline on this was not about the head knock, not about should be a red card. It was about Kyogo not shaking the guy's hand as he walked off concussed.
Which he did, by the way.
Exactly.
Yeah. Which he absolutely did, but because it wasn't like a proper handshake, because he was fucking concussed and he just took the person's hand very sort of tentatively. Mental. We could go on with the red card. Well, it should have been a red card. We should have known about the yellow card for ages, but that was thuggish. What we saw there. That was for me. How it didn't go to VAR, instant red is beyond me. But Yeah.
Honestly, I could teach a journalism seminar on fishing for the Hun narrative, and that would be the prime example of it right there. Honest to God.
Yeah. I can't remember the guy's play. I can't remember the Aberdeen player's name, but what that effectively was a run-up headbutt is what he did there. He didn't even attempt the ball. He just sprinted for the ball and then stuck his head down, and it was always going to happen. Extremely dangerous.
You know how I've been saying we need some hard bastards centre backs from the Balkans? That's what I'm talking about. This guy's like Macedonia, something like that international. Just look at him; he's a big unit, and he just clatters people. He was kicking lumps out of guys, and then he's going and headbutting people. That's what I've been talking about. Get those Balkan hard bastard centre backs in.
We'd get even more red cards, but squarest head I've ever seen on a man as well.
Just had to say it. So I wanted to ask you off the back of that, do you think we've got a bit of an injury curse this season? Because I just want to rattle through something for you. But not even we're 13 games into the season, okay, into the league. So what's that? About a third of the way. And we've had all the centre backs that were hurt, and now it's starting to spread through the team. So just back from injury, Alaga, Belka, Welsh, Phillips, Tilio's back in training. Yes, he does exist. And I'm going to bring this up, Paul. Is Tilio a figment of Jared's imagination? No. He actually Yep. On top of that, we currently have injured Kyogo, Maeda, Abada, Naroski, and Hatade. I'd say all 5 of them would be potential starters. Yet we're still how many points clear in the league?
Yeah.
All 5 of them would start in Europe. Do you agree with that? I think that'll be in our starting lineup in the Champions League. If we were to play Nazio tomorrow and they were all fit, I reckon all 5 of them would probably be in the starting lineup. So do we have a bit of an injury curse? And if we do, who was it that ran over a black cat on the way to Lennoxtown? Let's take a punt here.
I think I think this happens to Celtic almost every season. I mean, the severity might change, but we definitely have, not always halfway, but we always have quite a number of players that are injured together that we kind of would say that were first team quote unquote players and sort of stuff. So I think that's part and parcel of the season. But I seem to remember previous Rodgers seasons having similar injury crises where it was quite a few players and we were sort of getting into the sort of lower, and which is always really interesting because he likes a really small squad. So you really start to get into sort of like the youth players when you do that, when you get all these injured players and then you all the way through your reserves and stuff. It might just be the intensity of training, and it just sort of, with the amount of games that we play as well in the season. But it seems to be more and more common. So that's why squad depth is really important. But yeah, we're still absolutely flying domestically, so I'm not overly concerned.
Well, Jared did suggest there that perhaps there was some sort of supernatural cause for this, and if we're talking about something that's going to inspire, fear, bitterness, resentment, jealousy, I reckon it must be the ghost of Jimmy Bell. I'm just going to say it.
I was going to say it was James McCarthy. That's why we haven't seen him anywhere near the squad. Because he's gone under some ladders, run over some black cat, done all sorts of stuff. So it could have been him. Got a comment from Ian here. Ho, boys, the stand-ins have been standouts. 100%. Yeah. Case in point, main one I want to shout out is Scales. I'll do it every episode at the moment because he's just been unbelievable, in my opinions.
Yep.
Now, I want to talk about this quickly because Liam's on here. We could go into all sorts of tangents, and then we're going to jump onto the European stuff, Johnny, okay? So Brendan Rodgers has said that he won't ask for games to be postponed due to missing players for the Asian Cup. He says we have enough depth in our squad. Do you agree with this, Liam? I've got some quotes if you want me to rattle them off as well.
No, but before you do that, I will just say that, yes, I do agree with it for the reasons being that I don't think all of our Asian players are going to make it to that tournament.
Okay, so in the article and everything that came out, it says Kyogo, Maeda, Hatade may be off with Japan, and South Korea could call up O and Yang. So there's 5 guys out, and they're all so realistically looking at it, 1 midfielder, wingers, forwards, the works, right? So pretty much all our strikers gone. So the Asian Cup kicks off January 12th during the Premiership winner shutdown, with the finals on 10th of Feb. Games are in Qatar, which is pretty. I think it's Qatar or something like that, so or Dubai or something. But when asked how much thought has been put into this period, Roger said a lot. The likelihood is a lot of these guys, if they're fit, will be there. That's part of our planning. The thing is, for us, it's not a surprise. We knew it was there, and we spoke about it in the summer leading into the window. We have that in hand, and we know what our ideas are for that. When asked about postponing games, the Hoops chief said, "No, we just play the games. I don't think there's any need. It's like the Africa Cup of Nations. It's part of the deal. If you have a number of Asian players in your squad, you know that this might happen, so it's about dealing with it." Rodgers has also said he's not in any rush to go to the transfer market to plug gaps, particularly up front. He's already told club chiefs he doesn't want any more project players and will first look to the club's academy before pushing to add new faces. Our first look is always from inside. Is there anyone in the academy base we feel can step in and have a chance to play? The first is to never look outside. It has to be from within. You never know. We might have a 15 to 20 million pound player in our academy. We'll assess it, speak to the academy coaches. We observe them a lot anyway. Then it's a case of where it's not inside, then of course we'll look outside. Then it's about the strategy where you can either bring one in, buy one, or you can take one from the loan market. So I think he's pretty much summed it up really well there as well. I agree with what Liam said. What Andrew's saying here, Kyogo probably won't make it.
I agree.
No.
He probably won't.
Hatate might well not either. They're both fringe players for Japan at the moment. Maeda's the only shoe in out of our Japanese contingent at the moment.
I was going to say, yeah, to be Hatate would be the one I think won't make it. Japan depends on the other guys because, Hatate hasn't played much recently due to injuries, which is something Maestro said in the comments. So if you've got Maeda who's out injured at the moment, Hatate's out injured, and they both get fit in time to go to the Asian Cup, Liam, can you see the Japanese coach calling up players who haven't played in months?
No. And especially when, you think that, particularly in Hatate's case, he's going to have to try and displace players like Mitoma and Kubo, two of the best creative midfielders in Europe at the moment. I really don't see that happening. As much as Ryo Hatate is, I think, potentially as good as either of those players, he hasn't done it for Japan yet. Emphasis on the yet. And Moriyasu I don't know if Kyogo's got photos of his wife or something. He just does not like Kyogo. I don't know why. I cannot work it out. But no, I think Maeda ultimately, assuming that he's back fit by then, will be the only one of the 3 that makes that squad. But I'd love to be proven wrong.
So I'm going to just say something in Maestro, and one of the comments is saying Hatate hasn't played much due to injury. Abada will be back. So realistically, if we're missing Yang and we're missing Maeda, who are wingers for us, we're going to have Abada back by then as well. So that gives us a winger. So that's a bit there. And Andrew Galli is calling it that Japan will win the tournament.
They will. Yep. I would totally agree with that.
Yep.
Based on recent form, yes. Yeah.
I look at it as well and go, okay, Tilio hasn't played at all. I'm just doing this just to wind comments up now. He won't make the Australia squad. There's his opportunity to break in. Come on, Marco, make it happen.
Comes back from injury and then disappears to the Asia Cup.
Yep. Make me look like some sort of prophet. Come on.
Goes to the Asia Cup, scores a hat trick in the final. Australia win the tournament, ends up getting sold. Having played a total of like 3 games for Celtic.
That's what's happening. That's what's happening.
Brilliant. Okay, so last topic we want to discuss is name of the pod from 06, so 0-6 to 6-0. Right, so come up with that because of our last 2 games. We go to Madrid, we get pumped 6-0. Then we come back to the league, we play Aberdeen, we pump them 6-0. Now, just for fun, the 3rd biggest club in Scotland, Aberdeen. over the last 5 years, obviously. Third biggest team in the last 5 years in Spain, Atletico Madrid. Perfect comparison. That shows you the levels, doesn't it? It's 12 goals the difference between that level between the leagues. So that shows the sort of thing we've got to deal with. And when Brendan's saying, you can't make mistakes and it's the level of the player, you can kind of understand it when you look at it from that sort of point of view. But Johnny, you wanted to talk about this in our group chat. You mentioned it as well. So I'm going to throw to you to dig into this. And I've got the Champions League group tables, the Europa group standings, and the Conference League here. So if you need anything up on the screen, let us know.
Okay, thank you. So look, this is most of this is probably going to just be my opinion, right? But I did try and look up a couple of stats, which I'm not a stat person. I'm very much an emotional, this is how I feel type of person. So if I say something wrong, just correct me, right? Comments, all that sort of stuff. I think for me, the biggest conversation that we had after, for me, it was an embarrassment. And I know some people have commented that it doesn't matter how by what we lose, a loser's a lose. For me, actually, it really, really does. I think losing 3-0, which is probably most people would say is a comprehensive loss. You know, you're saying that you are completely the better team, and losing 6-0. That's embarrassing territory. That's how the Dons feel right now. It was just not just to lose, but to lose so badly that it was such a huge margin is really hard to take for your ego, right? So there's a big conversation about, you know, how do we compete? We're the coefficiency of the Scottish football is such that we're going to get into the Champions League. Right, the winner of the Scottish League is going to get into the Champions League. So how do we compete on that stage? Is this a Celtic problem or is this a Scottish football problem? Me personally, I think Celtic needs to. I'm more about personal accountability. So I think Celtic needs to take some personal accountability in how we play in Europe. It is not good enough. In the last 10 years, it has been absolutely shocking. Arguably 20. It has been absolutely shocking. So how much of that is Celtic's problem and how much of that is Scottish football's problem? So somebody put this on Axom's Facebook group, right? And I thought this really sort of highlighted the point that I was trying to make. Somebody else also felt the same way. So they said Shakhtar Donetsk just beat Barcelona 1-0 in Champions League. Slava Prague beat Roma 2-0 in the Champions League. Toulouse just beat Liverpool. Those are all examples of teams that you would say should not be beaten. Those are the elite giants of football. And you're getting other teams that are having results in Champions League. We haven't had a result like that. We've not had a result like that in a really, really long time. Not against any of those. We would lose all of those games comprehensively. So right now. So it's not like it's unachievable for Celtic to do these things. But is it because we beat Aberdeen 6-0, where our tactics and our formations are entirely different? We're playing most of our domestic game in one way. And then we go up to European football and we're getting completely gubbed because we're not getting most of the possession and we actually should be counter-attacking, which we've never really done before, and blah 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 blah. So I kind of looked at like where all the other leagues around about like our revenue area are, and I will just rattle some of them off. But Austrian league, Danish league, the Polish league, the Swedish league, Greek league, and then I always think I had the Ukrainians, you know. Czech league as well, all sort of within our revenue area, right? Scottish revenue is about 200 million euros, and then the lowest of that is the Czech league at 87. So, like, I mean, that's the sort of group that we're sort of taking in. Slavia Prague obviously is one of the teams I've just rattled off there. Czech team just beat Roma. We would never do that. Their league is so much smaller than our league, and yet they're still getting results in Europe, which we wouldn't achieve. I looked at like who you know, the Austrian league aren't far off us, right? Their biggest team is obviously Salzburg, right? We've talked about this on this pod a lot about how we should be emulating the Salzburg model. If we were to do that, we would need Red Bull to buy us or alike. We would need somebody, which is just never going to happen, right? I don't think anyone's going to accept that. But the team that I think we should really bring up is Copenhagen. Copenhagen consistently do better as in European competitions. Similar revenue market than the Scottish, you know, the Danish and the Scottish leagues make about the same amount of money in revenue. We nowhere near do we achieve Copenhagen's success in European football. So look, it is so much about Scottish football, and I do think some of it needs to be we need to improve the overall game domestically. That's out of our control. That's entirely out of our control. So we can't do anything about that. But we can take our own personal accountability, and we can say we do not set up for European games well enough. We do not tactically get it right. We do not get the personnel right. You know, I think we need to take more accountability and say this is not us. This is not a Scottish football problem, and European football is not a bonus. We shouldn't be accepting that. This should be the yardstick. This should be the standard. And at the moment, we're so beyond the standard of everybody else. And this is what I was saying. This is what I said to Jared before the pod. We run a risk of turning into like a Rosenborg or a Red Star Belgrade, where used to be big teams. Nobody really gives a shit about them anymore. Nobody really cares. They've got lots of history. They've got really passionate fans. You know, they've got European success. Nobody really gives a shit about them. We run into that risk if we continue on this trend of, you know, Champions League and European football is just a bonus, and it's all about domestic, and you know, blah 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 blah. So look, I'm still quite upset about the result. I think I'm generally. I said this before when Rodgers came back. I'm happy for Rodgers to come back, but I just couldn't take the 7-1s, 7-0s. I couldn't take, and we've just had another one, and it's just a shame to see where we dominate so much domestically, and then we go into the actual, you know, Colosseum of football, and we don't even make it out the hurdles. Really, we really don't. So look, we can talk about all the other performances we're having, how well we've done, and good job, guys. He's still 1 point and stuff like that, but you nearly did it. We still didn't get the results, and it's just, for me, it's just not good enough. I think the aspirations of Celtic and a lot of the Celtic fans are not good enough.
I look at it, Johnny.
That's my rant. I got it off my chest now.
I look at it, Johnny, and go, yeah, I agree with what you're saying. And you know where you're saying about we're not far off becoming a Rosenborg or a Red Star Belgrade or that sort of thing, right? We're a couple of years away from that. Let's be honest. It's not we're a decade away. We're a couple of years away. The Champions League's expanding, which means more teams are coming in, which means the prestige of being a Champions League team, in my opinion, is lowering because it's being diluted. So then if you get in there and you're playing 10 games in the Champions League, but a diluted Champions League, and you're still getting pumped, and it's the top 40 whatever teams that are in there, instead of 32 teams, it goes, or 36 teams, it goes to, 40-something, and you're still ending up in that bottom 8 teams in the Champions League. That's where you basically become you're a nothing club. And we deserve better, and we need to do that. So I'm bringing up a couple of comments here. So we've got this one from Mahesh. It could be wrong, but I think Celtic have been pumped by 5 goals or more in around 50% of their games in Europe over the last 20 or so years. That's coming from the stats man.
Yeah, how do we accept that as Celtic fans? I don't understand how there are so many Celtic fans, my family members as well, right? Where we just go, European football's a bonus. I'd rather not be in Europe than take those types of stats. That is hard to swallow. We just don't take it seriously enough, in my opinion. We just don't. And I said this before on the group chat, but if we get a morsel of success in Europe, I'm not saying we win anything. We get a morsel, our money will go up. We'll get better TV deals automatically because people want to watch Celtic. Better players want to come to Celtic, or at least they make the decision to come to Celtic over others because we've got more. We get more international fans, which bring different revenue streams. It's such a natural thing, and I think buying let's just take the Asian market to the side, because that's such an underutilized market. So you can buy a £2 million player and actually then being very successful. But when we operate everywhere else, it needs to be 5, 6, 7 million as a minimum for a player that will contend for a first team place. Why are we buying squad players? Squad players should be the players that were in the first team that aren't good enough at the moment because we've bought somebody better. That's who a squad player be. Shouldn't be filling on a seat on the bench.
On the point of what you're saying there, Johnny, we were looking at Kvistgarden, or however you say it, from Brøndby, right? They wanted £6 million for him for a striker. Like, he's like a 20-year-old. That's the market now. That is what 10 years ago was $2.5 million.
Yep. That's it.
3 million. That is what the market is now. It's inflation. You got to go with the times. But I'm deliberately staying away from you on here, Liam, because I know there's going to be a Liam's rant coming off the back of this, and I want to end the topic with it. Okay, so don't think I'm ignoring you.
No, not at all, not at all.
I need the sustenance from Liam's rants. Come on, let's get to it.
Just you keep both your hands where I can see them when I start talking.
So Maestro was saying we need players in positions that can hold the ball in Europe. We are lightweight. Andrew's saying many of us discussed a more defensive setup, an extra central defender, an extra defensive midfielder at the expense of wingers.
Yep.
RL77's view: Scottish clubs need to invest in quality managers to raise the standard of our game. But then they'll sack the managers after a couple of months.
Yep.
Well, just on that, right? To be fair, we have done that in recent years. That's definitely something. It's not fair to say that Scottish football has not gotten better in the last 10 years. It definitely has. I've seen that, right? And quality is debatable massively, but having a big name like Steven Gerrard and Brendan Rodgers, and then Ange, who created that name for himself, and even to an extent, people like Sean Maloney that have all managed it. These are at least names that have been drawn into the Scottish game. So it's not like we haven't been doing that, and the other teams in Scottish football have been getting into Europe a bit more consistently and stuff, which I guess that doesn't help coefficiency when they play shit, but at least they're starting to get there now. So it's not like that. I'm not giving them a buy, but it's not like the people that organise Scottish football haven't been doing their jobs and trying to make the Scottish game better.
I just want to be a smartass here, John, and say Postecoglou is a long name and a big name, even though when he came in, everyone was saying, who's that and why would you sign some Australian from Japan, blah, 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 and all that stuff. So
absolutely, yeah.
This ties into what you were saying before. We are a chocolate-covered puppy in the pitbull arena of Champions League.
But we make ourselves that, in my opinion.
We need a better TV deal from Jamie Young. Mahesh is saying all the pot 4 teams are bottom of the group.
Yeah.
Maestro saying we had the money to invest more. It never transpired.
That's how I feel. We should have spent more. Shouldn't have spent more on more proven rather than projects, which I think Rodgers has made that comment.
And Maestro, is 20 odd years ago, we're spending $6 million on players. Touche, mate. I completely, Martin O'Neill days. That's right. Yep. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly rattle off before we go to you, Liam. If I read through these Champions League groups, you tell me where you would put Celtic, this current Celtic team, in this group.
Okay.
Bayern Munich first, Copenhagen second, Galatasaray third, Man United fourth.
Last.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, historically you think we would beat Copenhagen, but the other 3 would pump us. But the way Copenhagen are playing now, no, they'd pump us as well.
Yep, Copenhagen are better side than us at the moment.
Okay, Group B, Arsenal, PSV, Lens, Seville.
I'd maybe give us third in that, but probably last.
Yeah,
I'd maybe give us third.
Maybe third.
Real Madrid, Napoli, Braga, Union Berlin.
Yeah, again, I'd maybe give us third on that if we could get points off Braga.
Yeah, Braga and maybe Union Berlin are beatable, but the other 2, no chance.
Real Sociedad, Inter Milan, Salzburg, Benfica.
Last.
Yeah, pass the look for that one.
Just so you know, Benfica have not won a game. 1 goal for, 7 against.
Yep. Champions League's beyond us at the moment, but sorry, keep going.
I mean, it's impressive, but it's no Rangers, is it?
Don't worry, we're getting there. Atletico Madrid, Lazio, Feyenoord, Celtic.
Yeah. We're finishing last. I think that in my opinion, we're going to finish last, and I think we might finish admirably. But I think there's a lot of fantasy land thinking at the moment with if we just do this and if this just happens and if blah blah blah, and it never goes that way. Like I will happily have pie on my face if we get third, but it's a long shot. It's like never bet on it.
I'm gonna rattle off the last 3 Champions League groups just for a laugh. Dortmund, PSG, Milan, Newcastle.
Ouch.
Mhm.
Lube is all I
Yes.
can say. Then Group G, Man City, Leipzig, Red Star, Young Boys.
Young Boys are a better side than us at the moment.
Yeah, we could maybe get a point off of Leipzig, but yeah, apart from that, no.
So the bottom two, they are a draw each, and they've lost their other games.
Mm.
And Barcelona, Porto, Shakhtar Donetsk, Antwerp. Maybe Antwerp.
If we took points off Antwerp, yeah, but big maybes there. And again, Shakhtar Donetsk in the Ukrainian league. I think probably maybe the stats are skewed from what I read, obviously with the revenue, but I would say, but even before that, Ukrainian league was a smaller league than the Scottish league, and yet Shakhtar Donetsk are a much better side.
Well, what's going on there just now? The fact that Shakhtar are competing at all is an incredible achievement. So fair play to them for that.
Now I'm looking at the Europa League. So I'm just going to rattle off a couple of groups, and then you tell me where you would put us. So I'll go through West Ham, Freiburg, Olympiacos, Bakhtar, Topala.
Well, we could maybe do it in a group like that. To be honest, I still think
I'd be saying second in that group.
Second behind West Ham, aye.
Yeah, I mean, but again, to be fair, the Greek league is not far off us on revenue, and still seems to do better in Europe overall. So it's not as if like I'm not saying that those heads to heads we wouldn't do better, but they've got more success recently than us.
Okay, here's some fun stuff for you. Marseille, Brighton, AEK Athens, Ajax. That's in the Europa League.
Jesus.
That's their group of death. Guess who's last in that group is Ajax with 2 draws and 2 losses.
Yeah, Ajax are capitulating. Well, they're just completely imploding at the moment, but
they're in need of a rebuild. It's been another 2 or 3 years before Ajax do anything in Europe again.
Real Betis, Sevco, Sparta Prague, Aris Limassol.
Winning
I mean, we're good, but we're no Aris Limassol, are we? You know what I mean?
But then we'll just scroll through quickly. Atalanta, Sporting Lisbon, Sturm Graz, Rakau. So I'd say that one we're probably looking at third.
Yep.
Next group, Liverpool, Toulouse, Union, SG, and Lask. We're probably playing for third in that group.
Mm-hmm.
Rennes, Villarreal, Panathinaikos, Maccabi Haifa. I'd be saying we'd probably be going for third there.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Then Slavia Prague, Roma, Serviette, and Sheriff. Not bloody Sheriff. Not those guys again. Nah, we'd be probably looking at third in that group because Roma's not even on top, Johnny boy.
Yeah, like they'll still get through, and they'll probably get through to the fucking finals. Let's be honest. Teams like that just don't even give a shit about the groups.
Yep. And here's another one for you. Leverkusen, Karabag, Mulder, Hacken.
We've had the only caveat I'll say is we've had groups like this and we've still not done it.
I know.
You know, yeah, we've had groups where we're like winning this is an easy second, and we've not done it. It's just not happened. Or we've gone through the group on second and immediately been put out. In the Europa League.
How pissed off would you be if you were an AEK fan or an Ajax fan and you heard that group compared to yours?
Yeah.
The reason I went through all the Europa League groups is because all the talk about the coefficient, realistically, we're in the Champions League at the moment, but looking at what you've got there, if we were in the Europa League like a certain team full of zombies, we'd probably be doing some good work for the coefficient. But we're in the Champions League. So it's where we're talking about levels. What do we as a supporter base want? With the Champions League being what it is and the Europa League being what it is now, and the way we're playing, I don't even know.
That's it. Even when we did Europa League stuff, we played pretty shocking. And that's bar a couple of really great performances in recent time, which we can all talk about, the Leipzig games and the Lazio games and stuff that, where we really have taken scalps. But it's the fact that you remember those is because those are the only really ones that we've done something in. Do you know what I mean? And the Anderlecht away and stuff, and that's kind of it. We've got a handful of games where we can say, this was the Celtic that we're actually playing like we would domestically. We're actually doing stuff that of teams that we should be beating, but we just don't. And I'm glad I'm not involved, because it seems dead simple on our outside and stuff. And I'm saying it should be dead simple, but something's happening. Something's not happening is what I'm actually trying to say. Something's not happening at Celtic to give us a little bit of European success. And by the way, as much as it pains me to say this, Sevco got all the way through to the final, nearly fucking won the thing at the Europa League. So we can't say that Celtic couldn't do that, or we should be doing stuff like that. We should be doing stuff like that.
Now, before I throw to Liam for his rant on this whole thing to finish the topic, the reason I went through it as well, all those other groups, is it shows where we would be if we were in the Europa League, and we're a chance of getting after Christmas knockout football, right? However, what's happened to us every time that we've been in the Europa League and done that? A team's come down from the Champions League and just absolutely pumped us, and we haven't won a knockout stage for 20 years. So that's that vicious cycle. And so even if we were in the Europa League, okay, you're getting some wins, you're doing stuff for the coefficient, but you're not getting any further than we are anyway at the moment. So it's an absolute shit show. But everyone, tune in. It's Liam's rant.
Right. Okay. I'm gonna right. Yeah. Thank you. I'm gonna open up with a quote from the late great Sean Connery. People say, "Oh well, we're trying our best. We're doing our best." Losers whine and complain about doing their best. Winners go home and fuck the prom queen, right? Which is what Celtic should be doing. Now, I'm going to say something that's very unpopular here, but I think it's true. There's a direct correlation between the time the Huns went bust and we stopped being competitive in Europe. For the simple reason that our board are content with, as long as we're better than them, we are okay. And this is an unhealthy thing that runs through the entirety of Scottish football. We peg ourselves to our supposed rivals. That rivalry died in 2012.
Why are you talking about pegging, Liam? You in that again, mate. Jeez.
Oh dear, yeah. There's definitely a good headline of that Rodgers and pegging, and yeah, we'll get anyway. Right, right. God, you've knocked me off. You've knocked me off my train of thought now. Right, but
pegging. Talk about pegging.
Yes, right, pegging. Right. So, speaking of getting shagged in Europe, yeah. Yes, it's like I said. We have accepted mediocrity because mediocrity is all that has been needed to beat the Huns. And it's all that's likely to be needed for the foreseeable future. So unfortunately, that culture at boardroom level is not going to change. And again, this is probably going to get me some hate in the comments, but it needs to be said. There are too many Celtic fans out there who accept that, and don't just accept it, but actively defend it and encourage it. Look, do you want to end up like Rangers? Do you want to end up like Rangers? Look, that will never happen to us. Okay, we have always been. If you take out financial doping, if you take out the Masonic Referees Association, if you take out every non-sporting advantage that they have been given down the years, we are and always have been bigger and better than they are. It's not a rivalry. It's only a rivalry when something happens to artificially create the rivalry, right? Anytime that it's a level playing field, Celtic win and win well. We are the biggest team in Scotland by a distance. But unfortunately, our board has decided that it's commercially viable to play up this, well, they call it Glasgow Derby, but in reality, they're allowing the Huns to perpetrate this old firm continuity myth. Because they think As long as one end's singing rebel songs and the other end are up to their knees in Fenian blood, we're going to keep getting money out of it. Because that's all they care about. And it's horrible for the standard of Scottish football, because it means there's just this glass ceiling we're never going to crack, because we are always looking... The team that we are aspiring to be alongside will always be beneath us. We are not going to progress as a society, because these hatreds are dredged up and actively encouraged every time we play that mob by the press, by the marketing teams of both sides. Celtic are not afraid to wind up or play into it when it suits them. We had the ridiculous statement from them last week saying that Celtic are not a political institution. We exist because of politics. End of. Right?
And what do they do pre-game?
Yeah, exactly. Right. Aye. Funny how none of the Huns had an issue with politics when it came to flag shagging on Sunday, did they? Aye. But anyhow, I digress. So what do we do about it? What do we do about it? Now, a few things. Greater accountability for Celtic. Yes, we absolutely should, because like you say, if teams like Copenhagen can do it, there's no reason why we can't, right? Maybe one of you guys will fill me in. I can't remember who it was. One of our guys posted in the Celtic Down Under chat a couple of weeks ago the breakdown of the income, like what percentage of clubs' income comes from commercial revenue versus match day revenue versus TV, etc., right?
Yeah, it was Steve Smith.
Yeah. Well done, Steve. Right, that was a fascinating bit of statistical analysis you pulled out there. And if you look at that diagram, every one of the top teams, match day revenue accounted for significantly less than 50% of their total revenue stream. It was, in some cases, it was as low as like 5 or 10%. With Celtic, I believe it's still over 50%. And until we break that mold, we are not going to progress. We could be a global brand, but we don't think like a global brand. We think like a small-time Scottish team that are happy just beating the Huns 4 times a year. That's the problem. It's a mental. It's not a money thing, because we are as cash rich now as we've ever been in our history. Our rivals are as financially crippled as they've been in their 10-year history. We are in a total dominant position right now, but we do not use it. We allow these muppets at the SFA to dictate to us about when games are played on TV, how much TV money we get, the disciplinary actions that are taken or not taken, the absolutely almost mathematically impossible statistical anomaly when it comes to penalties being awarded for and against certain teams. This is all stuff that in any other league, the biggest team in the country would say, wait a minute, we are the hand that feeds you here. Show us a bit more respect and let's get this sorted. But because our board are happy to accept managed mediocrity, we just bend over and take it every season. And we shouldn't. That is the root cause of all of this, is we are accepting at boardroom level, we accept mediocrity, we accept corruption, we accept the complete ineptitude of our institutions, because that's all right, as long as we beat the Huns. That's the mentality. And until that changes, none of this is going to be resolved. And so endeth the rant.
But you're not wrong, Liam, because that attitude bleeds into a lot of the fan base as well. We get a lot of fans that are just happy as long as we win the league. And great if we won a couple of cups, and as long as we're better than Sevco, then who cares about Europe? It's good to get a bit of extra money and make us even stronger. But who cares about that sort of stuff? It's just good for holidays, good for some entertaining football. But it's hard. I guess I'm still on the end where I'm youngish and I want a little bit of European success in my lifetime. That would be quite good.
Yeah, 100%, John. Now I'm going to finish it off here. The whole talk about that. Robert Gibson's comment. I blame this season's home shirt. Just to end it on a laugh. I think what we'll do there is we'll wrap the pod up. We've gone off on quite a few tangents. It's been a bit of a long one, so I'm thinking, we wrap the pod up, guys, and we'll do our final thoughts and enjoy the international break. So, Johnny, you got a final thought?
No, not really. Look, I'm just I'm looking forward to my next big gig, which is the Teskey Brothers in beginning of December. That's actually only 2 weeks away. I've listened to them for a long time, so it'd be great to actually watch them live. Watch them in Brisbane River Stage, which I think there's still tickets if there's any Brisbaneites listening. But yeah.
Nice. Yeah, my final thought will be, if you want a Christmas present, buy our t-shirts, go to our website. They're there. You love them. Support the podcast.
Support. That's it. A bit of support.
And Liam,
well done, Jared. You know that every time you mention Christmas in November, Santa executes an elf. That's two we've killed now.
Brilliant.
No, my final thought is I'm trying to think of something funny to end the show on here, but I'm struggling. Just remember that in spite of penalties, in spite of injuries, in spite of European ineptitude, in spite of the board having their heads wedged firmly up their own arses, in spite of the Green Brigade being thrown out of the stadium for no good reason, we're still 5 points clear at the top of the league, and that is not going to change anytime soon. So it's a good time to be a Celtic fan regardless.
Yes. All right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate it. We'll speak to you on the next podcast. Hail, hail.
Hell,
Hell.